Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Drummer, you just kind of mentioned first of all, were you alive during the 1970s era gas crisis? Just out of curiosity, I don't know, so I'm just asking.
I wasn't born yet.
You weren't, but you do acknowledge that that was the reason for the construction and the development, the advent of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, right? You'll acknowledge that, right?
Yes.
And do you know what precipitated that? Why did we do it? Why did America do it?
I'd like to follow your point here. Would you like to elaborate? I mean, why did we
create a Strategic Petroleum Reserve? What was happening at the time?
There was an energy crisis that was outside of our control.
Okay, and who was controlling it?
The cartel of states that are the primary energy producers.
In the Middle East, right? The
Right.
cartel of states in the Middle East. Now, they said there was an energy crisis. I was alive at the time. And they said there was an energy crisis and we're actually running out of oil. That's what they said. There was a limited supply and it was all going to run out and the prices were going up and you couldn't get it. You could only buy gas odd and even days based on your license plate. I lived through the whole thing. And so we created this Strategic Petroleum Reserve to counteract the global market's control over it, right? Would you agree?
I'm following you.
Okay, you're following me. Okay, so, and I would acknowledge you say it's a global market, which you said it's a global market, right? But you just said, my colleague from Ohio, you just said that when the president released oil from the SPRO, that it actually reduced cost. Did you not?
I'm citing the majority's witness on who acknowledges that of all the factors, that definitely did play a role. Not an outsized role, but it played a role.
Did it reduce the cost or not? That's what I'm asking. Did it reduce the cost or not?
It did.
Okay.
But the majority is arguing
that
so
it reduced
that should
the
not
cost.
have been done.
But prior to this, with Mr. Donalds, you said it's a global market and there's nothing we can do to control it. If there's nothing we can do to control it, how did releasing oil from the SPRO reduce the cost?
It reduced the cost marginally, but the price was
I don't care if it's
at elevated
marginal or
levels.
not, but it reduced the cost. The point is that we can do something about it because, sir, in your testimony, you say that we can't drill our way to energy security, but clearly we can because we can influence the global market. That's exactly what just happened, and you just admitted to it. So what we're here to talk about is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and what it's used for. Do you know what it's used for? Do you know why it was designed? Do you know the definition, why we have a Strategic Petroleum Reserve?
We have the reserve to insulate the U.S. from these types of energy shocks in times of crisis.
In times of crisis, emergency, national security emergency, and natural disaster. What national emergency was occurring that required the release of so much, or literally any, of the SPRO? What national emergency was occurring during the Biden administration that required us to do that?
If I recall, there was a war in Ukraine.
And that's a national emergency for the United States of America. Did it imperil the United States of America's ability to drill its own oil, produce its own fossil fuels, refine them, and get them to market?
The president made a judgment.
Just answer that question.
The war in Ukraine was driving up costs for oil to the extent to which it would mandate or even lead him to make the decision to make the release.
Was it an emergency?
It was a global energy crisis. This is well established. Are we debating
No, it's not, sir.
here?
You can't say it was well established when it's not well established.
There was
you also say
record costs in
reclaiming
energy,
my time.
globally.
What
record costs
established
in food
facts
prices,
do you have?
Globally?
You say that wind and solar are by far the most cost-effective sources of energy on the planet, and you say it's an established fact. What are those established facts and who established them?
I invite you to read the footnote and source for that claim in my testimony.
This is your testimony. You just tell me and tell us what the established facts are.
Renewables, particularly wind and solar, are the most cost-efficient and cost-effective means of producing energy on this planet.
Says who? Says who?
Says physics.
No.
Says
Who's the person?
scientists, says engineers.
Cite the study, sir.
Give me a moment. I'm going to look at the report that I cited. and give you the name of the report that you
Sir,
can
have
also
you
look
ever
into.
worked in the energy securities market?
I have worked at the grassroots levels. I have
The
worked in
energy
the national
securities
level.
market. The
to
energy
work-
securities market. Have you advised
I
anybody?
have not worked in the energy securities market, but it doesn't take an energy trader.
Sir, you've got as
It
much
doesn't
experience
take-
as I do, and I pump gas for a living. That's what
Doesn't
that's
take an
experience
energy
you have.
trader
I yield the
to
balance.
see.
Thank you. Chair recognizes